This is All About Women with Dr. Drew, a podcast designed to focus on women and the reality and complexities of living as a woman today.
If you haven't got the guts to do this, then step aside.
Now, here's your host, Dr. Drew Pinsky.
Welcome to All About Women. Here we are again. My guest today is Dr. Wendy O'Connor, formerly Dr. Wendy Schwartz. Her website is drwendyschwartz.com. Twitter handle, Ask Dr. Wendy. She is a PsyD MFT. She has been doing therapy for years with parents and kids, right? And
Yes.
and adults as well.
Uh-huh.
Describe your practice so we can people get an understanding of where you're coming from here.
Well, before I was a therapist, I was a preschool teacher for 12 years, so I learned about attachment that way. So attachment theory is really important to me. And then I started working with young children in my private practice, and then it turned into teenagers. And then I started working with couples. I do a lot of family work, and I work with a lot of young adults as well.
Now, in the context of working in all those different environments, because attachment's I've spent my whole last 10 years thinking about attachment, working with attachment issues, doing my own therapy around attachment, and I want to dig in deep with that with you because I don't think people fully get what that is, and it is so experiential. I gave a talk last week. I tried to talk about it to a group of adults, a bunch of high-powered adults. Mm-hmm. I had the most difficult time conveying to them what I was trying to convey because it is so experiential. So let's start with how did you come upon attachment in those preschool teaching years?
Well, I think that I wasn't going to be a teacher long term, but I was definitely fixated on the kids that really struggled emotionally. And so I watched how one-on-one therapists worked with these children every day, connecting, attaching, teaching kind of social cues, as well as helping the children kind of relate to the other children. And little by little, I saw a connection and attachment. I also observed a lot of parent work in my internship, and I did a lot of observation of infants and toddlers. And, I think that obviously, my thesis was on attachment in single women.
Oh, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to romance and attachment. But first, I want to define for people what attachment is.
I think what you said, it's a feeling. It's either you feel disconnected.
Now I've lost 80% of the audience. This is where I try to communicate it, and I go, stay with me here. It's an experience. And
it's a feeling.
But people have trouble understanding. People want give me the recipe. Show me the things I need to do to have attachment. And it's more complicated. It's more holistic. It's more experiential. So let's try to describe what attachment is in words that, of course, already admitting that you can't really do it in words.
Yeah. Observation is key. So if you're at Starbucks and you see people really disconnected.
What do you mean? I'm lost already. Disconnected?
Not paying attention to each other.
Okay. So paying attention is the first order of business.
Yes.
In attachment, which I agree. Of scrutinizing other minds, right? Isn't that the first step in attachment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what moms do when babies to have a reaction and emotion. Moms scrutinize them.
Right. Or they don't have eye contact.
Okay. So eye contact is important. And what happens in that eye contact moment?
The eye contact is very important for
How come
mommy.
blind kids can't attach? Or can they attach? Well, they can.
They absolutely can attach.
So it's not all about eye contact.
Again, it's the feelings,
Okay.
right? When we look at infants can even smell their mommy's breast milk, right?
Okay.
When they turn to the mommy who their own mother is, only they can feel that rhythm.
And Wendy, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to keep pushing hard because I'm going to push you hard the way audiences push me hard. I'm going to see if you can help me break through to audiences with this material. So it's not that I don't really know where this is. I'm going to play audience.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you're paying attention and you're looking at somebody. Now what?
Knowing that someone is understanding you. So
Okay, so
really,
that's the other person's experience. It's like, somebody's paying attention to me. They seem to understand what I'm experiencing. How do we convey that to somebody else that we understand?
Well, definitely body language is really important.
Okay, that's what?
Still, right. It's a knowing. It's a feeling. It is definitely, like you said, experiential. It's sometimes it's so profound that you either feel a disconnect, you either feel a therapists call it projection identification. So we take in the experience of the person across from us, and we what I call feel the flavor of them. So either someone is really fidgety, or someone is really aggressive, or someone is really caring and nurturing. Someone's really shy.
And when you say we feel it, and by the way, I think women relate to these words you're doing far better than men do. But when we say feeling it, what does that mean?
How we feel inside
is our
baseline.
How our body responds.
Yes.
Would it be accurate to say that how our body responds, if we listen carefully enough, we'll feel novel responsiveness that we know maybe, hey, that's not me. That must be something created with that other person.
Right.
Is that accurate?
Yes, it's not as compartmentalized, obviously, because
it's an experience.
You go through therapy for 20 years to realize whose stuff is who. Is that your mom's stuff? Is that your dad's stuff? Like, where are those feelings coming from? And then we sift them out. Okay,
so I'll back away from that. So for the average person at the Starbucks, you find somebody who's having an experience, and maybe it's somebody you've seen at the Starbucks every day, and so you kind of have a hello, how are you kind of relationship. But today that person's having an experience. You walk over, you scrutinize them, you make eye contact. What happens to me as the person going over scrutinizing is some feeling that if I'm careful, I'll be aware of. What is that feeling?
And it's a different type of a feeling than you had before.
So my body is changed by the presence of that other body having an experience.
It's kind of the baseline of that experience you usually have.
And I would call that the others
right.
Putting an experience into me, or we're co-creating an experience, or something. Something about it is not me. So you listen to that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and is that attachment?
Yeah.
That's the beginning of it, right?
There's so much that goes into it, and in psychology they section it off with secure attachment or insecure attachment.
Okay, types of attachment.
Yeah, types.
So there's ambivalent attachment, disorganized attachment, anxious attachment. There are really 5 types, right?
Disorganized.
Is it 5 now? Because it always gets broken down. Or within the 5, there's 8 more.
Well, Kim Bartholomew, who does extended attachment in adult relationships, so she talks about dismissive, permissive. She talks about a lot of other romantic things that go into it. So in the baby, the baby and the mom, there are 5 basic types. Let's go over them. Positive.
Secure. Disorganized, which are the extremes.
Yep. Anxious
or dismissive, right? That's the same kind of thing.
Ambivalent,
which is between the other two, right? Which is kind of sometimes I'm attached and sometimes I'm not.
And avoidant.
Ambivalent and avoidant always seem kind of the same to me. How are they different?
Well, avoidant does feel like that hot and cold, black or white. It's pretty cut and dry. You can feel the I'm very into you, and then you can feel I don't know you. It's a little bit more what we call borderline-ish.
So avoidant has a borderline quality. I always thought borderline was disorganized.
It can be altogether. I don't think everything is so compartmentalized. I call it like the Cobb salad. When I look at a Cobb salad, I'm a very metaphor person.
Yeah.
In a Cobb salad, it looks choppy and disorganized, and you have like a lot of stuff. It kind of makes me feel anxious to look at a Cobb salad. But when I look at like a Caesar salad, it's a little bit more soft and easy and able to kind of take in a little bit easier. With borderline personality, it's in my opinion,
chopped salad.
It's the chopped salad. Yeah, it's a little bit more of, you got the anxious, you got the avoidant, you have at moments they feel really secure, and when they're really extremely fragile.
So personality, which is what we're talking about with borderline, personality has at its foundation attachment phenomenon, but a particular attachment phenomenon doesn't translate into a particular personality per se.
Right.
They're associations, but they don't translate directly. Interesting. So, how about now? I wish I had an audience here to go. You guys getting this? You understanding it? You get it? Is Gary understanding it?
Yeah.
You heard of attachment before?
Only through you, but yes. I'm getting there. I'm learning slowly.
And it's basically what happens between a mom and a baby.
Yeah.
That's how the species survive, is through attachment. It's a fundamental biological mechanism in the human being, but it's the platform upon which all psychology is built, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
And we've moved away from a single skull understanding of psychology to a interpersonal we're a matrix, and particularly two skulls are where a lot of the interest is these days. I think it's where your interest is, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where my interest
Symbiosis and rhythm. It's the rhythm.
The two skulls. I mean, how do we affect one skull?
Right.
If one skull's struggling, how does another skull affect that other skull?
It's like blind dating. I work a lot with people who are in the dating world, and so they go out and you take your first date, and you can either feel that you're in that rhythm of attraction and information and really interested, and it's kind of an easygoing kind of rhythm, or out the gate you sit and you already know no, and what do you do with that?
Yeah.
And is it them? Is it you? Is it both of you? Again, it's their history.
Right,
history.
and if you have a history of being attracted to because of trauma and repeating the traumas of the past, you're attracted to the wrong kind of person. Mm-hmm. You being shut off to somebody, to me, in certain settings, might be somebody I'd coach to go, hey, stay with that. That could be the good one. Right. Because your picker's busted. Your picker's going to take you to that a-hole every time.
Right.
How do you get people through that? Because what they want is that high of the romantic attraction.
Absolutely. They are used to that trauma fight or flight response.
Traumatic bonding.
Right. And they have kind of turned it into a good thing in their mind, and it's skewed. And so we have to kind of sift it out and identify that that's really not a healthy trait, and so that they can get the amped feeling or the adrenaline rush from a good thing, like a loving, caring, kind thing. So they just have to get more experiences where it might feel dull to them at times, and try to find ways where they can make something bad in their past actually really good. So it's a healing that happens. And sometimes I call it exposure therapy, where you have to kind of date a couple. Maybe women will say they're really boring guys or neutral. There's just no attraction. But they're really good. The nuts and bolts are their values, their morals, their ethics are really loving, really sweet. They're good men. But because they don't get that amped adrenaline, really dysfunctional feeling, or even abusive feeling, they throw them out. And they go for the bad boys again, because that's based on their family history, and want to play that out again.
Do you ever conceptualize that as a love addiction? Is that a useful construct? Again, these are all just constructs. We're trying to communicate these behaviors to people. Is that useful?
I don't think I really use that word love addiction, although, it definitely could be. I think that it's... I just think here out loud, I want to invent a new term. It's called love abuse. Yeah.
By that, and it has multiple meanings to me, but just the way substance abuse is like, hey, I like getting high. I'm not an addict. I just like getting high.
Yeah.
Well, love abuse is kind of the same thing. They like that high of that nasty whatever a-hole guy.
But it feels normal for them, and it feels familiar to them.
Well, familiarity, I understand. People put a lot of emphasis on familiarity and normal, but if I'm being punched in the face and that feels familiar, your body would tell you to get away from that, not just because it's familiar. You would go back. You'd go back because there has to be a motivational system pushing you back, not just because it's familiar.
Right. Yeah. I work with a lot of women who have had very physically or sexual abuse histories, and they redo that.
They recreate that.
Yeah.
But the frustrating part is somebody's trying to change somebody. Is they'll make progress like an addict. They'll make progress. They'll find something worthwhile, and they'll go back. They'll go back to that high.
Right, until they have to learn a new attachment style.
Okay, now that's where your thesis came in, right? Right there. Is that what you were talking about in the thesis, I imagine?
Yeah, so my dissertation is also on attachment, single women, except my thesis was really younger women in their 20s, and my dissertation is about women 30 to 50.
Okay.
Because I was one of those women who dated for a really long time, and I got married at 45, and just a few months ago, and I waited. I dated.
I'm going to ask you, do you mind talking about your personal
Not
story?
At all. Nope.
Okay, we're going to get to that, because inevitably every professional woman that comes in here starts talking about their personal stories, and it's been very, very interesting. So, but go ahead. So you dated till you get married at 45.
Yeah, so I was never in a rush. I always felt like I was a career girl and woman, and I'm going to continue on all these different goals. And if I meet someone special, that's great. And if I don't, I'm really blessed and grateful. I have a really nice life. I come from a loving family. They're not perfect, by the way. but had to do my own work on learning what secure attachment looks like. So that I could invite it into my life. But in my dissertation, and also...
But let me stop you for a second,
Sure.
because you said something there that I think people would want to have answers. What does secure attachment look like? If I were listening, I'd go, well, what is she talking about? What does that mean? How do I know if I do secure attachments or not?
So, I grew up in a family where my mom was an alcoholic. She's recovering now for over 35 years. So I have the dysfunctional family, part one, and then the part two is the healing, loving, wonderful. My parents are married 50 years, safe, incredibly supportive, calm family. And so I was able to visually also see that. So,
But when you were growing up, the disorganization of having an alcoholic mom and all that craziness created some sort of attachment issue.
Right.
And how did you know when you had a secure attachment?
When I stopped dating inappropriate people for me.
Gary, you're talking about dicks.
Yes. Yep. So, and it was familiar and it was easy, but, it didn't feel good. And I really wasn't connecting. And it was a wonderful therapist for many, many years of my own work to point that out and to highlight it and to really extract it and not judge it, but just let me continue to do it until I was ready for a different experience. And to learn how to date the nice men who were secure and focused. I don't think I was ready for an adult man until my 30s. I dated boys my whole life. And that was safe and comfortable. I didn't really have to connect.
Did you ever crave going back?
No, not at all.
No. Did you at one point in the process?
I think I didn't want to pay attention at times, and so I had to stay really present and keep my focus, which, again, as a older woman, is not to be married for me. It was to find an adult, safe, loving, secure relationship. And I did. And I'm a stepmom, too, so I got everything I wanted. The most incredible stepson.
Oh, wow.
And I'm really it's the best. And I can't even believe I'm married because it just all happened.
Well, we're drifting into this other topic, so I'm going to let it go. And that is that so many of the women that come in here that are professional complain about it's too late. How am I going to find a guy? I've been focusing my career so long, and most of them are not in active therapy and have been working on it for years like you have and have their own whatever issues. They may not be as significant as yours. They may be less or more. Who knows? But this is a really common complaint.
It's huge. And in my dissertation, we see that kind of the running themes are two groups. They're all professionals, all multicultural, different socioeconomic status, but they all have the running themes of I had two different groups. One group, they were professionals, definitely had a history of trauma, whether it's physical or sexual abuse or a lot of loss. So was
that a coincidence that they divided like that, or you selected that group?
No. It just kind of happened. It just
so
kind
all
of
the professionals
emerged.
have traumas. Interesting. Well, that may figure why there's so much distress in that population. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so trauma, and what was the other group?
I just want to say also, out of trauma becomes you get the very hyper-vigilant, strong women too. So they're highly successful. I had some women who just know how to run companies and CEOs.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking to on the show. And but they come back at A, I'm entitled to a good guy.
Right.
B, they're all gone, or they're dating 20-year-olds.
Yep.
Or they're at my age. I don't trust because they're the same age as me now, and they've not really. What are they up to?
Or
they're
they
just
want
idiots.
Perfection, Drew.
The women want perfection.
Dying
The women
to
want
have a
perfection.
perfect man.
Yes.
It has to be check off, education, check off. Height is huge for women. They must have 6'2" or taller. They have to have a specific cultural background or socioeconomic background. Some West Side women won't go to the Valley. Some Valley women won't go to the 310. It's silly. And my next book, I have two other ones that I'm working on right now. One book is for single women called Stay Open, because I always encourage women to think outside the box, and I can tell you more about the ideas that I come up with for them.
Read book Wendy. That's the next podcast. So we'll just
and then
we'll do
the other
basics
one
this
is
time.
couples and technology.
Oh, yeah.
So with my whole thing, just to go back to the attachment stuff, my whole preaching status right now is all about attachment and technology. I'm all about how technology blends into all this. So,
and what's the headline? Is it detracting from, or could it be a tool for?
I think it's both. Okay. I think it's both.
Okay. That's a separate podcast. Right. Let's stay with this one. So you've got these women that are super picky, looking for perfection.
Right. So
feeling entitled to perfection because they've worked so hard in their life.
Right.
And so they want a certain height, a certain cultural background, a certain educational background. They want certain status or success also, right?
Yep.
And then what happens?
And so in the dissertation, the two groups are
What's the other group?
Group, they pretty much all have the same characteristics.
They're all professional with trauma.
Yeah.
And you didn't go out and select that population, just what came in the door?
No, I didn't know these women. And
so let's be careful here. Are we saying all super successful professional women are likely to have a trauma history?
No, but I think we all have a life history. And
was it little T trauma or a big T trauma? Or both? Or mixed?
It's the salad bowl. It's got the Cobb salad. It's a little bit of everything, and you have to also think about what is trauma. What would be trauma to them?
Okay, what is trauma?
Because just because someone did not have any physical or sexual abuse, but they had
an alcoholic parent or an abandoning parent or divorce
or a lot
or
of
something,
grief or loss,
moving
or
all the time.
You talk about attachment. Animals are really important too. They talk all about their pets, things like that. So, very interesting. And what else? So one group is about really coming to an age and not wanting to date anymore. They're just kind of done. And so they just said, my life is content and I'm not going to date anymore. And they just made a active decision, I'm not dating. And they're beautiful girls. They've got a really nice life, but
sounds dissociative. Sounds shut down.
Hope.
Sounds like an emotional shutdown of sorts.
Well, avoidant for sure, active avoidance or whatever. And then you've got the other group that is hoping and wishing and praying. And since that dissertation has been completed, I have probably about 3 women who all have adopted babies and have not found love but have active dating lives and still really happy, but they went on to go get their dreams of having their child. So
now adopting the baby, I would think, would be unfair to the child to bring a child into that kind of a emotional context. Like my life, I've got trauma, I'm angry, I know you're going to fix me, a baby.
I don't think it's actually unfair because a lot of times these kids are in the system, and I don't want to assume.
Oh my God! So they're going, but you're saying if it's like how not infants. They're not adopting infants?
No, they are. They are,
okay.
For the most part. But
I would say there are severe attachment issues. Now somebody with trauma is going to try to fix somebody with an attachment problem?
Drew, the most incredible thing that happens, you take a baby that has been taken from a family, it may be substance abuse or whatever, and maybe 3 foster homes until they get, so God knows what has happened to those babies.
Yeah.
And then you take a mother who is so heartbroken because she never got the love that she needed or wanted, but she desires to connect, which is a really healthy thing. And all of a sudden, you take the baby and the mommy.
How old are those babies now?
About 4 or 5.
Looking okay?
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. All flowing. Okay. Loved, safe, secure, attaching. Okay. Really beautiful stuff.
So they're professionals with trauma, and the 2 populations are avoidant and hoping, right? Mm-hmm. And what are the take? I'm going to get a call here real quick. They put those calls up, but because one's coming from Holland. I'm asking. I want to try to get that one if I can. And what's the takeaway? Do you think for the average? Oh, here we go. Let's take this caller because she's calling from Holland. This is. I'm sorry, I can't quite see your name. Is it Carlton? No. What is your name?
I'm calling from Holland. Yeah, from the Netherlands. That's perfectly correct.
And
yeah.
what is your name?
Your show reaches wide and far.
What is your name?
My name is Millie.
Millie?
Okay, I had a question about intimacy.
Yes.
About how I can create an intimate relationship with someone. Because I've been abused in the past, and I've been in therapy for years and years. Then I stopped for a couple of years, and in May I became back to therapy again to learn how to have an intimate relationship with a partner. I am very social, I think, but I have no friends. because it's really difficult for me to be emotionally close to people. So I also have no relationship. So I wonder if you have any tips or insights how I can make that process a little bit more easy for me.
Let me
it's very difficult.
Let me ask a couple things. First of all, just listening to and responding to you, don't feel emotionally closed off.
Yeah, and that's the trick I always. That really works against me. I can be very socially, I can be very, even entertaining at times, but have a long-term emotional connection with someone is doing this. It's really more easy for me to do it one-on-one in relationships. Well, I know.
Okay.
I'm going to see the person tomorrow.
Slow down.
But,
slow down. I get you.
Yeah.
Shh, slow down. And have you been given any diagnoses? Has anybody said over the years, here's your personality disorder or anything?
No.
Okay. All right.
I have been, in the past, when I was 14, I think, an anxiety disorder. But it wasn't so severe that they had to put me on meds or anything like that.
Okay.
And I must say that the healthcare system in Holland is a little bit different than in the USA. I think they put people a lot more easy on meds there.
Oh, that's, of course. That's for sure. And and you said you had trauma. What was the trauma?
Well, I've been sexually abused by my father, by my brother.
Okay.
I really fucking family, so to say. So, yeah.
Okay. So here's the deal, and she's had lots of therapy. Have you had trauma therapies per se?
Yeah, I had a lot of trauma.
No. Listen, hold on. Have you, because your spinningness, your energy is still your trauma stuff. Your central nervous system is geared up, from all that. Okay.
That also works with it. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
I will calm down a little bit.
Okay, well, it's okay. Have you had trauma therapy? Has anybody said, we're going to work on your trauma?
Well, I didn't know if you could call it trauma therapy.
Okay, hold it. Stop right there. Okay, good. Okay.
Listening.
So, yes, the distance and everything is affecting us as well. So here's the deal. So this is exactly what Wendy and I were talking about. I mean, she's precisely the person we were kind of talking about, except she's partially treated. And we have not used the word intimacy, Wendy, you and I, in the context of this conversation. But I do believe that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
That intimacy. I'm writing a book on this very topic. How intimacy is something. What you want me? You don't like me moving my hands around, Gary? I'm sorry. Use my hands. This is what Corolla complains about every damn day. Now you're going to start complaining about it too. Okay. I have an anxiety disorder. In case you didn't notice, that's what that is. That intimacy is really the core of human relating. It's the highest order, highest connection that humans can make. It's the quality of intimacy, and how intimacy can heal, and intimacy can create joy. And intimacy is really the zone of so much wonderful. What's great about humans? I mean, it's really everything, healthy and love, and all that is when it's real in the context of intimacy. It's its most vibrant.
And again, I think, Drew, it's so subjective to everyone.
What intimacy is?
Yeah, what is it? Because for some, you can.
We don't even talk about it in this country. We don't talk about it anymore.
No, and a lot of
professionals
people,
do. But.
If you have a casual sexual relationship, that doesn't necessarily mean you have intimacy with that person. You're just getting naked with that person.
Right.
But
in fact, usually it means non-intimate.
Right. What I talk to my clients about is the cuddle. The cuddle, the talk before, the talk after, coffee. It takes a lot of courage and strength, intimacy. And I just want to tell the caller.
What's your name? Is it Millie?
Yeah, that's right.
Millie. I'm so happy that you called. Number one, what I was thinking about is the fact that you reached out is a huge thing. It means you're asserting yourself, that you desire to have, better relationships. That's wonderful. Just the fact that you're interested in making steps and in calling in, I think that's wonderful.
And getting therapy. She gets therapy.
Absolutely. That's huge as well. The one thing that I also was thinking about was body work, especially with physical or sexual abuse with people and, body memory. It's important to be mindful of teaching the body new ways to connect.
Okay. Now, it's fun. Now, Millie.
That is exactly what I've been doing too.
Okay, now, Millie.
Really?
Millie, Wendy and I are. It's funny. There's three words that Wendy used that I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm going to frame it a little differently in terms of what I think this is. you said body, you said connect, and there was a third word you used. There was somewhere that
assert.
No, it's body and connect, and in that sort of. Here's what I'm thinking, which is the exact same thing Wendy's saying. I'm just going to use a little bit different language, and it's funny that we're both coming to the same thing, which is that it's really hard to connect to others if you're not connected to self. And we don't, unfortunately, think about self in a holistic sense enough. And those of us that work in this field do. And what Wendy's telling you is she has a feeling, and I think she's both has the feeling personally and she's putting her bet down based on your trauma, that you're disconnected from parts of your body. And our body is where our feelings come from. The feelings are bodily based, autonomic, deeply connected into the right brain. And in order to have intimacy, you have to be connected to yourself. You have to be fully connected. Now, sometimes connecting to other helps you connect to self, if you could make that. But usually you need a professional to do that, I think. Or else I've seen it happen in recovery sometimes where people know that they're going to die if they don't reach out. And that motivates them to reach out. But I'm not sure, just the general person. So, it's about getting that actual trauma therapy, whether it's a bodily-based I know what you said, mindful. You used the word mindful. And I thought that's the other word. You have to be mindful, you have to be connected, and you have to be connected to your body, and you need a holistic kind of all of you has to be available for a relationship, or you can't be intimate.
Desire. A lot of people have had a traumatic history, and they are quite fine being guarded, avoidant, and not interested because it's just too painful to go there.
And that's that other population you were watching amongst the professional women? Is that?
Yep.
That's the reason. It's too painful to go there.
I don't know they'll verbalize that.
But that's your sense of it.
They're cut off, and they're wonderful in the world of professional, jobs, and they're able to flow. But behind closed doors, just can't relax and just allow someone to love them and be with them.
I may ask you to stay around for another podcast where I'm talking to a president of a college who's written a book about this issue, and she's looking at it more culturally, sociologically, from feminist perspective. I don't think she has this piece. It might be interesting for a few minutes to have you bring it in. But okay, Millie. So the deal from our perspective is a little more specific trauma therapy. Is that what we're both saying? Yeah. You're saying bodily based therapies, and I'm saying that's the same thing.
Well, I think it's more. Well, I think you know the therapist. I think you're very close to her, actually. I'm doing it's called sex relationship therapy in a way, and it's really bodily focused also about. Well, I have exercises and I connect to my body, really slowly, and work through that in a way.
I'm going to give you an intuitive sense I have about you. You're further along than you think you are. I think you're really you're going to be ready for this soon, probably sooner than you think, and maybe that's scaring you on some level, which is why you want us to sort of make it okay or fix it, or you're looking for some outside way of making it safe. Yeah, but I think you're on your way. I really do. Okay. It's a definite feeling.
Well, that's the good news of today. Yes.
Yeah, it is good news. So keep doing that therapy. The sex relationship therapies they do. My friend Simone Bien, has she been on this one yet? She will be on the show.
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
But I'm going to say goodbye to you, Millie, while we chat here. Hopefully you keep listening to us, okay? Or can I put her on hold somehow?
Yeah.
How do I do that?
I will do.
Okay, hold on.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to do this.
Okay.
And Millie, really, you can do it. I think if you just stay focused on what the goal is, you deserve to have love and be loved. And it sounds like you have those, parts of a loving person yourself. So visualize it and see it. And, try to do baby steps. And I would also...
I think she is there.
Yeah.
You feel it, right?
And,
you feel what I'm feeling?
educate the person, take baby steps. If you're with somebody and you're not sure how they are, just tell them that you need to go slow. But everybody deserves to be loved. So definitely, I hope you're doing all those steps. Because the therapy part is one thing, but the action is the other. And so to do the action is really important.
Right. That's the piece that she's afraid to do. That's
the
part she wanted us to kind of do. She wanted us to kind of do for her, kind of felt like.
Got to do it.
Like, make it so I can be intimate and not be scared is sort of what I think the ultimate question was. But it's going to be scary for her.
Right.
Because she is going to be totally available now for the first time, maybe.
And just educate the person that you are in control, that you're going to take baby steps, But you have to walk through your fear. It's a little bit of exposure therapy in a way, but you can do it. And I'm so glad you called, really.
Yeah, really. Dr. Wendy O'Connor, formerly Wendy Schwartz, is with me. Her website, drwendyschwartz.com. Before I take a quick break, I want to remind everyone about our friends at lumosity.com. And, of course, you guys know that I'm on board for anything that helps you make a positive change. This is about cognitive positive change. That's why I'm happy about lumosity.com. They have online games that are based on the science of neuroplasticity designed to help improve your brain's performance cognitively. It's not about the emotional, goofy stuff we're talking about here. It's about being more focused in meetings. It's about improving your memory. It's about name finding, all that good stuff that we need to succeed out in the business world. I've been playing the games Lumosity for a while now, and it seems to help. So have over 40 million other people, and you get to design these games specifically for you. You dial in what it is you're trying to improve. The games are created, and then you get feedback, a readout on how you're doing. It's easy to get started with Lumosity. Of course, the games are fun. You can play anywhere from your computer, iPad, iPhone with the Lumosity app, which I think is probably what I'm using the most. The games only take a few minutes a day, and Lumosity, the app, or your website will remind you on your phone or on your computer that it's time to do the games. So here's the deal. Go to lumosity.com now. Click the Start Training button. See, I need to do a couple exercises before the show today. Start Training button to create your own program. Then start playing your first game. That is lumosity.com. And tell them you heard it from me, Dr. Drew. And we'll take a quick break and be right back.
Now, a message from Kathy Lee Gifford.
I've got a brand new podcast called Kathy Lee and Company. I know. You're thinking this is a woman who had a flip phone. But guess what? Now I have an iPhone, and I tweet and everything, and I'm boldly going where this woman has never gone before. So join me every Wednesday for a brand new episode of Kathy Lee and Company. And don't worry about it. If you miss it on Wednesday because you're busy, you got stuff to do, you can download me anytime at podcastone.com.
Don't miss Kathy Lee and Company, debuting Wednesday, October 23rd at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Welcome back to All About Women with Dr. Drew.
Indeed, welcome back. My guest, Dr. Wendy O'Connor, formerly Wendy Schwartz. She has an ebook, Teens and Technology, Helping Teens Connect in a Disconnected World. I think she and I are going to come back and do a separate podcast on that topic because we're just trying to lay the groundwork on attachment here, which was your dissertation about attachment and romantic relationships. Is that what you expected to find when you went out to – what was your sort of hypothesis when you went out to do your dissertation?
Well, for the dissertation, I was focused more on the older women, and I wasn't sure if consciously they were waiting. But
did you have a hypothesis? Like, I believe older women are waiting because fill in the blank.
Well, it goes back to trauma and loss, and
No, I know you got my question. So I guess maybe these theses are constructed differently than a research paper. In a research paper, you have to come up with a hypothesis, and then you test your hypothesis with some kind of experiment, and then you analyze it.
Yeah.
Did you do something like that, or was it more just an exploration?
Yeah.
Exploration.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And go ahead. You thought they were waiting.
Yeah, I mean, I clearly wanted to learn about what happened in their childhoods, or why were they stuck? Did they feel stuck? What was it? A lot of them just felt that they just couldn't find love, and they really weren't connected with the trauma at all. Just said, yeah, these horrific things happened, but they didn't really see the connection to it. So,
well, now that's something I've been doing Loveline for 30 plus years, and I'm shocked that to this day, people, I know it's part of the defensive strategy of dealing with trauma, is you got to push it back and get away from it. But people refuse to make that connection that maybe some of this relationship problem I'm having has something to do with that fondling when I was a kindergartner. Maybe. Right. What do you think?
Right.
They don't even. It doesn't even they're not willing to even contemplate it.
And it could be subtle. It could be really subtle. And currently in my private practice, I really love learning from my clients because I feel like that's where all the research is. I can look at all the statistics and I can read everything and read all the books and interview all the experts. But my experts are my clients that walk in. And so I currently have 2 ongoing women's groups. And they're so interesting, and I can't wait to actually introduce them and blend them in together. But I have a 20s single young adult women in their 20s and early 30s that are extremely anxious, having panic attacks, and freaking out because they need to be married like yesterday. And they're worried about their eggs.
Are they professional women or heading in that direction?
Yeah, professional. Yep.
And so in a way, that's appropriate. So in a way, we're creating a reaction to what their predecessors are now complaining about, which nobody told me to worry about this. And now they're worried too much about it.
Right. And then, my other group is about 40s, early 50s. These women have been married 10 years plus. They have at least 2 children, and they're on the verge of getting a divorce. And it's would've, could've, should've, and they are dying to tell these girls, relax, slow down, pick better, don't be in such a rush. So these women they're not prepared for careers. So when they are ready to get a divorce, they're all waiting for, I guess, this 10-year mark, so that they can at least get something in the divorce, alimony or child support or whatever. So I guess there's some. I'm not a lawyer, so
Sounds
some
diabolical.
10-year or something. So I call it actually my 10-year Amazon group, because they're all waiting for. They get a couple.
Are the guys that bad that they deserve to be treated like that?
I've met the husbands. I invite them all in because I do a lot of couples work, and I'm a big dreamer, so I believe a lot of things can be worked on. And they are lovely men. They are not.
So what's wrong with these
awful.
women?
Okay, so the main shift, what I see, is that I go back often to this book, Getting to I Do, and it's a well-known psychologist, and I forgot her name.
I've certainly heard the book.
Yeah, she's wonderful. I'll think of the name. Getting to I Do. She is now, I think, late 70s.
Yeah.
She still does therapy, and her whole thing is the animos, male and female energy.
Right.
So either you're male or you're female as a woman.
Right.
And whoever you date has to be the opposite. So if you're deciding to be male energy, you need to date a man who's female energy. And if you are a very feminine female woman, you need to date a masculine man. Either women should be loved, respected, or cherished. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's a great book for anybody who wants to read it, because I just love the male-female and the vignettes, and also kind of identifying energetically where you're coming from and the people that you date. So what I think is happening for my older women is that when they came into these relationships in their 20s, they were very female energy. They were not career girls, women, and the men were pretty alpha. They had wonderful careers, and they had a lot to offer, a lot to give. And so the women and men got married, and then as the women became to had babies, ran the home, started to really assert themselves, become stronger with their support systems, and really started blending into more male energy, there was a huge shift. And these men, because I know the husbands, and I think they're very nice men. They have other struggles, but for the most part, they feel powerless. They feel impotent. They don't feel like they can offer this woman anymore because she's too male energy. So I always say to my women, whether it's my 20s group or my 40s, 50s, take off your penis, because you really need to make your man feel like he has something to offer. And that's not to say you shouldn't be a powerful, strong woman, but if you have 2 penises in a relationship, it's not going to work, and especially if the energy shifts.
I get that, but if they're already checked out and planning to leave, why would they do that?
Well, because
why are they planning to leave, and what motivates them to even work on this kind of stuff if they've got this diabolical plan in their head?
A lot of them have started businesses of their own.
Yeah.
A lot of them have inheritance or have money from some other source. They say, I don't need him for anything. We're not having sex. We are not having deep conversations. We have no shared interests.
Okay, well, that's the problem. But there's no relationship.
And everybody is avoiding. So these women turn to male friends to have intimate, emotional relationships. And the men often turn to, this is just my themes in my practice, pornography or other friends at work, places where they feel valued, where they once did in the early part of the relationship. And it's sad. It's a grief and loss going.
Sounds awful.
Well, and it's awful for the children.
How old are the kids?
Often 5, 6, 7.
It's way in there. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, but part of this may just be the child rearing piece. There's so much stress during that early, grammar school years. If they just get through that, maybe they can find each other again later. That's crazy.
A lot of times the women who were married long term had in vitro and struggled with a lot of emotional stuff. So right out the gate, they get married and then they start the hormonal stuff. Yeah. And the husbands feel like they go through grief and loss because it wasn't the woman that they married in the honeymoon dating phase.
And by the way, if they have a lot of the hormone treatments, it shuts down their ovaries in interesting ways in their 30s and 40s. Mm-hmm. And hormone replacement can suddenly bring their libido back, and their interest in their husband might come back again. I mean, sometimes the hormonal context – is that an earthquake? It's a strange building shake here. I would look into that for some of them because sometimes cigar is just a good smoke. You know what I mean? Sometimes if you change their libidinal context, husband might look more interesting to them a little bit. Well, particularly the alpha type of male, you know what I mean?
Yep. No, I do a whole bunch of self-care talks. I mean, that's all I do for everyone.
Well, this is a new area. This is a new area. I'll give you some referrals. In fact, we got to bring this woman in. Her name is Jennifer Parks. We're going to bring her to talk about these replacement therapies, and not enough is made of this, particularly women that have hormonal therapies.
It's huge.
In vitro stuff because they are turned into petri dishes, incubators, right. And then we don't. Then they're just cast out. Yeah. And a lot of mood stuff, a lot of hormonal failure issues that they're not aware of. It's low grade, but it grinds on the relationship.
No, it's huge. It's really big.
Yeah. I know personally, we had in vitro. We have triplets from a fertility campaign, and my wife was struggling with mood stuff, and we thought it was just being a triplet mom. It's so stressful. And her mom had I'm sure she doesn't mind me talking about this. Had menopause at an early age, and so she started getting menopausal symptoms. She was anxious to do something about that, and had been on some antidepressants here and there, not much use. Went on hormonal replacement, particularly testosterone replacement, and she was like pissed. She was angry, like, holy shit, I've been suffering with this for 15 years. I didn't even realize it. No one has talked to me about this, and life is different. And she's like, regained a part of herself that was lost that you'd be easy to blame on your spouse.
Oh, absolutely.
If you weren't aware of the biological context of what was going on.
A lot of women don't want to take a look at it, though. They're
Scared.
It's taboo.
Well, also women are busy blaming themselves. They do internal inventories and things and try to figure out how the relationship is creating this. Mm-hmm. And they're wizards at it. They're wonderful at it, and to a large extent they're correct. But this all has a biological context, and we don't think about. We hate that in this country, that our biology affects who we are. Parts of ourselves are deeply affected by something like our ovaries. It seems like that seems like. And by the way, there's risks to hormonal therapies too, and that's a whole mishigas. So Wendy, I have to go. I love discussing this material. I hope people have learned something about attachment. Let me before I wrap up, Gary. Don't get too anxious here. A lot of this stuff, I bet when you were doing a lot of your, not dissertation, but a lot of your training and observational work on moms and babies, you did something called the still face paradigm, where the babies are separated from mom and the mom walks in and doesn't move her face at all.
Oh,
and the one last piece that I want to sort of put out about attachment is that while Wendy and I did a lot of talking today about our bodies and attunement and connection, there's a piece that we didn't bring out, which is our facial expressions. That what we put on our face can do a lot to fostering attachment.
Huge. And can I just say there's another, I can get you the name of the speaker, but he talks about the impact, no, I don't think it's Fonagy, of plastic surgery, Botox, all that stuff, and how the disconnect, and now kids can't read social cues.
Oh my God,
it's
that's crazy.
Fascinating that all these kids now can't identify the mom after Botox and fillers because the face doesn't
move the same way.
So it's huge. Yeah.
So basically, when we talked earlier in this conversation about scrutinizing other people and, paying attention to them and making eye contact, there's something we automatically do when we feel the contents of the other person's mind, which is we reflect back to them with some expression on our face. Mm-hmm. We should, and pay attention to that, because that facial expression signals the other person's on a deep level, the right brain, that you appreciate what they're experiencing. And kids actually learn to identify their emotions and name them first through understanding them on other people's faces. That's my feeling. That's it. That person experiences, understands it, contains it. It's a holding environment where I can have these experiences and another person can understand them. It makes it much safer. And it creates a boundary. I'm not telling you I'm being overtaken by your feelings. I'm actually giving you a pretend. I go, I understand your feeling. I look sad too. I'm not saying I'm overtaken by your feelings. I'm not necessarily catching your feelings, but I appreciate your feelings. Think about that. Think about appreciating other people's feelings and then reflecting back on your face what they're experiencing. And
add technology to that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's our next podcast together. What technology can do to foster that, expand that, interrupt that.
Just look at each other. Please just keep in mind eye contact. It's important. Nobody's looking at it.
Skype?
Yeah.
Skyping, is that enough?
No, because you're looking at a camera.
That's right.
I want to see real life people.
Right. Okay, so that's our next conversation is about technology and its interference with this particular process. But there may be ways we can sort of foster and develop it. Wendy O'Connor, Dr. Wendy O'Connor, formerly Dr. Wendy Schwartz. The website, drwendyschwartz.com. Twitter handle at AskDrWendy, Dr. Wendy. The ebook, Teens and Technology, Helping Teens Connect in a Disconnected World. I guess people can get you through the website if they want to talk to you.
Yes.
And I'm going to bring you back on a couple more podcasts so people hear from you more on this podcast later.
And my new book is coming out very soon. It's called What They Tell Me, and it's all about teenagers teaching me how to connect in technology. And it's a parenting book, and I'm kind of like the translator for teens.
Can we give a little preview to that on the next podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Done.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.